Mr. Speaker, last night at the hearings on Bill 63, a representative of the University of Winnipeg Faculty Association called this NDP government's political takeover of post-secondary education institutions a hideous agenda.
Yep, it is.
Bill 63 opens the door to political interference in all areas of university functioning.
That's part of their
Students
game.
expressed concerns about the loss of autonomy for universities, the lack of adequate regulation of tuition fees, and the lack of student representation on the Minister's Advisory Council.
Terrible.
I asked the minister, will he either withdraw Bill 63 or make the badly needed amendments to fix the bill?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was pleased to be at committee last night to listen to the views of faculty and student representatives and others concerned with the post-secondary education system in Manitoba. As you know, Mr. Speaker, our calling card as a government since we were first elected was to provide a quality, accessible and affordable education for our students. Our objective in rolling COPSI into the department was simply to streamline the system in order that we can have more effective decision making. We want to keep our education system affordable, and Mr. Speaker, we'll continue to consult with faculty, with students and with the institutions to make sure that we continue to provide a quality education for all of our students here in Manitoba.
Mr. Speaker, the minister listened, but he didn't hear.
Exactly.
We know students were not consulted in the creation of Bill 63.
Not at all. Not at all.
Sadly, this is the same problem they have consistently had with the current way the Council on Post-Secondary Education has operated under this NDP government. No student representation. Last night, the minister stated that students could possibly be represented on his new advisory council
in the future,
but he provided no commitment as to how many or how they would be selected, or even if they would be on the council.
No, there wouldn't be.
I asked the Minister of Education, will he commit to having a students on the council, and how many student representatives will sit on the advisory council, and how will they be selected?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said in my first question, our commitment is to provide a quality, accessible and affordable education for Manitoba's post-secondary institutions. That's why we have among the highest funding to colleges and universities in Canada, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we have among the lowest tuition rates for colleges and universities as well. On the current Council on Post-Secondary Education board, Mr. Speaker, there is no student representation. There is no faculty representation. There is no representation from each of the institutions, from business or from anybody else. The new advisory committee contemplated in the new legislation going forward will include all of those stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, so that we can continue to build a quality, accessible, affordable education for every student here in Manitoba.
Mr. Speaker, last night, the President of the University of Manitoba provided a written submission on Bill 63. He called attention to the fact that the government in this bill is reneging on its legislated commitment of 2 years ago to give a 3-year budgetary planning horizon to universities.
Broken promise.
Last year, the NDP abandoned good management practices by not following through on their first 3-year funding commitment of 2012. And now the minister is changing directions again.
Yep.
I asked the
Like a weather
minister,
vane.
why is he avoiding consistent planning and choosing instead in Bill 63
Just like a weather vane.
to treat post-secondary education institutions like ping pong balls?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we have a strong, collaborative, cooperative partnership with each of our post-secondary institutions. Mr. Speaker, prior to this legislation being drafted, I talked to the presidents of the universities. We talked to the VP academics. We talked to faculty associations. We talked to students about it. We talked to labor members, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to consult with each of those stakeholders in order to ensure that we provide a quality, accessible, affordable education, Mr. Speaker. But really, if the member was listening closely last night, Mr. Speaker, each person who came to that committee said said, as a matter of fact, that they trust this government with post-secondary education. Their main concern, Mr. Speaker, was the leader of the Liberal, or former leader of the Liberal Party, and fact of the matter, the leader of the opposition. There was no trust there at all.